Hello, I'm Larry Chester, President of CFO Simplified. We work as fractional part-time CFOs for small to mid-sized businesses, providing them with the same senior financial advice that large companies get from a full-time CFO, but we do it anywhere from 2 days a week to 1 day a month. We focus on cash flow forecasting and management, profitability improvement, and what I like to call financial statement visibility, which means when you look at your financial statements, can you make changes today that affect profitability tomorrow? In addition, we also do QuickBooks setup and bookkeeping and do executive search with a lifetime guarantee. Well, today we're going to be looking at 20 action steps that you can take today that will help you restart your business after the rigors of the COVID-19 shutdown. But first, a little housekeeping. This presentation is going to take about 30 minutes. We're going to be moving pretty quickly, but don't worry, I'll make sure that you don't get lost. Please ask questions. Take a moment to locate the chat box at the bottom of your screen. It's the best place to ask questions. You know, I found that often people are shy about asking questions. I know that each of you has unique problems or a unique situation that you're facing, but you're all facing similar issues as well. The question that you ask will not only give you an answer to something that's been bothering you, but it will also answer the same question for others as well. So use the chat to ask those questions and we'll cover them at the end of the presentation. A link for a recording of this presentation will be sent to you so that you can reference it, so that if you miss something while I'm talking, don't worry, you'll be able to pick it up later. And please connect with me on LinkedIn if we're not already connected. I also have a newsletter that I write every other week on LinkedIn that presents specific case studies for companies and issues that they've been facing. After only 4 months, we have over 8,000 subscribers, so why not join them? So to really get a solid restart for your business, you need to consider how the shutdown has impacted on 6 functional areas of your company and what you should be thinking about or doing to get each one of those areas running smoothly again. Now, those areas are financial, dealing with reporting and the financial parties that you have in your business. Facilities, since your employees are working from home, what does that mean for the space that you've been leasing? Human resources, your employees, how are they continuing to be a key to your business as your business continues to operate? How should you work with them so that you're all on the same page? Computer systems, with your employees working from home, what impact does that have on your IT infrastructure? What equipment are you going to need and how you should be protecting yourself? And then finally, your customers. They are the reason that you're in existence. What's the best way of restarting your relationship with them? And then last but not least, your business plan. This is more than just a budget. Your company likely has been affected to the core by the pandemic. What should you reevaluate to get your business back on track and keep it relevant? So let's start by looking more deeply into the financial aspects of restarting. Action step number 1. Meet with your banker. Banks get nervous under normal circumstances. How do you think that they're currently reacting to the turmoil in the economy? Plus, they're in a conundrum. There are a lot of impending business closures. Based on the conversations that I'm having with banks and attorneys, it seems that they expect to start seeing business failures increasing in the next 90 days. They need to be generous enough to their borrowers to provide them with enough money to survive and rebuild their businesses. But they don't want to give them any money if they're going to fail. How are they going to tell the difference? Well, they don't know how your business has been affected or what reopening looks like for you. So don't surprise them. Arrange for a meeting to discuss your plans, your concerns, and tell them the kind of help that you're going to be needing. Tell them how your business has changed. Tell them how your sales have been impacted. Are your primary products and services still viable? Tell them how your overhead expenses are going to change as you restart your business. What are you going to be able to cut out of your expenses or make changes that will reduce your cash burn? Tell them what your profit picture looks like from now and through the end of the year. And then if you need more money, explain clearly how much you're going to need, why you're going to need it, and how you're going to pay it back. Action step number 2. Examine your open accounts receivable aging. How much of the money that's owed to you is more than 90 days past due? Now that's really a critical aging time. Keep in mind that you're not the only company that's short money at this time. Nearly every business is feeling the impact of COVID and of the business shutdown that everybody's facing. Look specifically at each company that's past due. Compare their current payments against the payments that they had made in the past. Are they paying later than before? How much later? If it's a few weeks, well, maybe it's not something that you need to worry about. But if it's a lot longer than that, give them greater scrutiny. Contact each one of those open accounts. If they're not paying you, then you're acting as their bank. You are actually loaning them money. And when you feel that way about it, how does that make you feel? Seriously. Action step number 3. I think that this step is important for any business. You can't operate your company without cash, so it's always important to understand where you are with regard to cash. Don't get lulled into a false sense of security by seeing that you have plenty of money in the bank today. We've had clients like that who suddenly call and ask us, hey, can you help me figure out how I'm going to be able to cover payroll on Friday? It's important that you create a cash flow forecast so that you can understand what your needs are and what they're going to be going forward. In normal times, a 13-week cash flow forecast can provide you with all the information that you need. But in times like this, we suggest that you create a cash flow forecast for 6 months or 26 weeks. Remember, the further out you go, the more tentative the numbers get, but it will still help you understand what cash commitments you're going to be having in the months from now, long after the cash that's currently sitting in your bank account is gone. Now, on our YouTube channel, we have a webinar that walks you through how to create a cash flow forecast. It's pretty simple to do by yourself. It won't be as sophisticated as the one that a CFO would put together for you, but it will provide you with an understanding of what cash you're going to need down the road. Action step number 4. Re-examine your budget for this year. We have always advised our clients that a budget is a living financial document. Your business is changing all the time, and your budget should as well. Just take a moment to think about what that means for your company this year. Is the budget you created last fall still representative of the state that your business is in today? You might actually need to start over completely and not just modify your budget. Your business might have changed that much. Put in a new plan. Put it in place so that you have a full understanding of your sales, your costs, and your expected net income. And then having a revised budget might also be a good first step to helping you create the cash flow forecast that we just talked about a few minutes ago. Action step number 5. If you got a PPP loan, pay attention to the news about how the forgiveness applications are going to be handled. There's now a bill before Congress that would provide automatic forgiveness for any PPP loan that's less than $150,000. In fact, most banks have stopped accepting forgiveness applications from borrowers. Hey, this is both good and bad news. If you've been keeping track of everything and paid your accountant or some other accounting professional to fill out the forgiveness application, well, I guess that could be bad news because what you've been doing has been unnecessary. But the good news is that it's possible that nobody's going to have sleepless nights worrying about whether the SBA is going to accept their application for forgiveness or not. Actually, 87% of the PPP loans granted to companies were less than $150,000. So there's a really big incentive for Congress to provide automatic forgiveness, but we have to wait and see. These things aren't cast in stone yet. There's going to be a vote sometime in the future, but it's still coming down the road, so just relax. You'll have plenty of time to resurrect that application and file it if you need to. Now let's talk about the place that your company calls home. If it's rented or if it's owned by the company or you, well, each presents a different situation. We're only going to be talking about companies that rent facilities from an outside landlord. Action step number 6. With everyone working from home, getting increasingly familiar with Zoom, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, GoToMeeting, and others, there's been a creation of a different understanding of what's really needed for office space. In March, when communities shut down, businesses closed, and people were sent to work from home, the companies that felt that everyone needed to be within an arm's reach of each other suddenly found out that they could be nearly as productive as they were when they shared office space. This was a revelation to business owners. First, they discovered that they just had their facility closed and that it didn't mean that they had to close their business. Second, some companies realized that they didn't need office space or expensive rent to function as a company. Certainly, they didn't need as much as they had before. Suddenly, companies no longer needed that large office space. It's time to determine what your actual business needs are. Every square foot that you rent adds to your expenses and reduces your profit. For every square foot that you save, the rent that you save just falls to the bottom line. Now that's great news. Action step number 7. Maybe it's time to negotiate with your landlord. This has created a near crisis situation in the commercial space arena. As you may have seen, some large companies have clauses in their contracts that allow them to reduce their space under lease at will, but not everyone is that lucky. The issue for most owners is that they have space that they no longer need and reduced revenue on top of it, so they're getting beaten on from both sides. Take the time to talk to your landlord. If you have a commercial broker that helped you negotiate the lease that you signed, he or she may also be able to help you in negotiating and renegotiating your lease. Some landlords have been able to reduce rents with their favorite tenants. Some have put up a strong fight to keep their rate the same. And still others may be willing to take a rate reduction now and then add it to the lease at the end of the term. But you'll never know until and unless you call your landlord with a request to revisit the lease that you had signed. Now let's talk about human resources. Action step number 8. Whether your business has been shut down, your people have been working from home, or you've been able to keep working through the pandemic, this is an important time to review your staffing. There are few businesses that haven't had to cut back on operations as a result of COVID. Even if you've stayed open, in all likelihood, you've reduced staff to cut back on expenses. In order to keep ahead of whatever might be coming for you, you probably reduced your staff to a skeleton crew. How much business can you bring back with the staff that you currently have? If this is the new normal, you're getting more done with less people. Examine your operations, your workflow, and potential consolidation or elimination of steps that might make your staff and your company more efficient, allowing them to get more done in a shorter period of time. This could be the start of a new standard of operations for you. Take the opportunity to examine your business closely. Examining operations over the past 3 months might make you aware that you've created a new normal. Action step number 9. Be sure that you communicate all of your changes to all of your employees. Telling a few people a few small secrets will feed the rumor mill, which is always bad for morale and productivity. So think through the changes that you're going to make, whether it be for staffing, hours of work, pay, or benefits. Maybe all of those might be affected. If you're reducing staff, benefits, or pay, be upfront with all of your employees, or morale will suffer. If you can, make all of your changes at once, because making a series of small changes will just get everyone worried about how soon the other shoe will drop. Reduce staff once to the deepest level that you're expecting to have. Don't do it in stages, because everyone will be waiting around to see if they're in the next round of cuts, or maybe they won't be waiting around at all. Action step number 10. Now that everyone has spent a few months working from home, some of your employees are going to continue to work from home, either part-time or full-time, or at least they'll want to. It's important that you establish a new company policy about working from home. Can anyone just decide to work from home? Can employees decide on their own? Will you allow some employees to work entirely from home and others only a few days a week? Are there some particular job categories that won't allow them to work at home at all? Whatever you decide, make sure that it's a consistent policy and that you clearly communicate that policy to all of your employees. Action step number 11. Revise your company's employee manual. Remember in number 10, we talked about establishing policies for working from home? Well, I'm sure that's not the only policy that's been changed by your company about work during this pandemic. This is your company's rule book. It's one way of assuring that each and every employee got the story about any changes that you've made in compensation, vacation, dress code, working from home, and overtime. With all of these changes, putting them into a revised employee manual that's distributed throughout the company assures that everyone has the same information. Action step number 12. Establish a consistent policy for terminations and layoffs. Now, this is going to be a very difficult time, and there are a lot of employees that are going to feel that they were treated unfairly. There's not going to be anything you're going to be able to do about that. So put together a written policy on paying for earned vacation and personal time, severance pay, continuation of health benefits, 401ks, or other retirement plans. It's important to review this with an employment attorney to avoid problems down the road. Employees might consider some of your actions discriminatory. Advanced planning will pay off handsomely down the road by allowing you to head off potential problems. One of the businesses that has come into its own during this pandemic is computer services. Now, whether you're a manufacturer, a distributor, or an IT service agency, it's the same. When every business sent their employees home and area schools sent their students home, everybody bought laptops for each of their employees and students so that they were prepared to work from home. Action step number 13. When employees took their computers home, it opened the door to a posse of hackers and mischief makers from around the world. I get 5 or 6 phishing emails a day in the form of requests for passwords, voicemails, payments, faxes, quarantined email messages, contracts, sales orders, purchase orders, gift cards, free offers, payments that are coming, just to list a few of them. The first rule of protecting yourself and your company is that you shouldn't open, that's right, don't even open any email that looks suspicious, comes from someone that you don't know, or is asking you for identification. And some of these are really slick. They look just like they're coming from a company that you're familiar and are working with. Make sure that these are really actual emails from them, from your supplier, rather than from somebody who's just trying to hack into your system. Action step number 14. Each of your employees now has new equipment so that they can work remotely. Laptops require different company policies than desktops do. You should have a computer policy in your company on the use of computers. It should be in your employee manual. But make sure that your employee manual has been updated for remote work. Your computers need to be protected from connecting to unfamiliar networks. And your employees need to be informed about what they can and can't install on their remote systems. Even though the computer is in their house, it's still a company computer and should only be used for company activities. Make sure that all of your employees are clear on that issue. Now, this may not need to be said, but there is no more important group of people that you interface with than your customers. Seriously, they're the reason that you exist. So action step number 15. You know your major customers like the back of your hand. I'm sure that you can name the 20% of your customers that make up 80% of your business. You should make sure that you reach out to each one of them individually. Call them, set up a video call with them, explain to them that you've reopened your business or that you're getting back to normal and that you will continue to provide them with the same fine quality products and services that you provided them with before COVID. Your job now is to make them aware that you're still there and you're working. Then make sure that you reach out to every other customer on your customer list. If they're too small to warrant a call from you, then have someone else in your company call them. If you can't do that, then use an email blast to tell all of your customers that you're open for business. Be sure that you reach out. If you don't tell them that you're open, how can they possibly know? Action step number 16. Now comes the difficult but very important part. You need to think about how each of your customers survived COVID. You need to do an evaluation of each of them, just as you did before COVID, just as you did when they first became customers, and you needed to determine if they were a good credit risk. Are they still a financially sound company that you're comfortable shipping orders to? Do you need to establish new credit terms for them? Do they have an outstanding balance from before the shutdown? Can you collect it before you send them any more merchandise? What do you know about how they survived the shutdown and the impact that it's had on their business? Now, these are important questions that you need answers to so you can make a reasonable decision as to whether they're going to continue to be a customer the same way that they were previously. Action step number 17. When you do your outreach to your customers, take the opportunity to talk to them about any new products or services that you're providing as a result of the changes to your business because of the COVID shutdown. Your business has changed, maybe a little, maybe a lot. But it's important that since you're reaching out to them, that you take the opportunity to sell them, yes, I said sell them, about the new things that you have on the horizon. It's really time to take a look at your business overall. This is more than just a budget and a cash flow forecast. It's really a playbook for how you're going to lead the company going forward. Consider it a plan for a new beginning for your company. Action step number 18. Embrace change. The pandemic has rocked the world in which your business operates. So far, we've taken a look at some of the ways that your business might have changed so that you can incorporate those changes into your business plan. Action step number 19. I wrote a blog recently on core competencies. That's really critical to understanding who you are and who you need to be in the period following the pandemic. Decide what products or services you're going to phase in and phase out. Understand the effect that those actions will have on your customers, your suppliers, and inventory on the floor. Let your customers know of your changes along with providing alternative solutions. Remain a trusted resource to your customers. If your cost structure has changed, update your pricing. Be sure that you give your customers fair warning. It could spur sales before the increase. If you make product changes, keep your staff knowledgeable. As a consumer, it's very frustrating to find out about changes in products that you buy. But what's worse is if nobody at the source has answers to questions that you have about what the changes are, the differences in pricing or delivery. Be sure that your staff is knowledgeable and reliable. It's important that they're up to date so that they can easily provide the answers that your customers are looking for. Action step number 20. Think about what a strategic plan means. This is the document that defines the mission and vision of your company. That might not have changed, but there are new wrinkles to your company now that COVID is part of our lives. So what should your business plan entail, and who should you provide to it? Who should you provide it to? Well, first of all, the business plan should tell your story, how you got here and where you're going. The last part may be totally different than it was 5 months ago. Then it should talk about the services and products that you provide to the customer base and who those customers are. This should be followed up not only with a budget for this year, but a projection of what 2021 should hopefully look like. And lastly, it should have a cash flow forecast so that you can tell what the plan is cash-wise for your business. Do you have enough money? How much more are you going to need to borrow? And so who is the audience for this document? Well, it's obviously for you and your management team, but it's also for whatever investors you might have, but it's also for your lenders so that they have a solid understanding that you have plans and are putting them in place for the future of your company. The current business environment can turn even the strongest stomach sour. There are many issues that need to be addressed. Having a checklist makes much of that easier to handle. Also, be sure to reach out for additional help from specialists who can assist you in areas that are not within your area of expertise. Take time to talk to an employment attorney, a banker, a commercial realtor, a marketing expert, and yes, even a CFO to make sure that you make the right decisions with the least amount of stress. You know, you've worked hard to start your business. You've faced adversity in both marketing and sales, product development, financing, operations. This might feel a bit like starting over again. But the reality is that most of what you've built so far is still solid and workable. What you need to do is adjust it to the work in the new environment. How do you go about doing that? Well, this webinar has given you some ideas about what steps you need to take moving forward. These are all just stepping stones to get you to the future that you want. Planning, creativity, and flexibility are the three important approaches that will keep you heading in the right direction. Be open to change, innovation, and collaboration. Be the leader that your company needs. Show confidence to your staff, your suppliers, and your customers. You have the tools and skills that you need to get you through the next 6 months and set a course that will continue to lead you to success. And if you need someone to talk to about your plans, please feel free to give me a call. I want to be a resource to you for any questions or thoughts that you might have. So, are there any questions?
Hi all, this is Amy Kuehling. I'm Larry's assistant, and I don't currently see any. Does anybody have any they'd like to add to the chat? We will follow up, of course, with the presentation, so you'll have an email address there. It'll be really easy to respond with any questions you have later on.
And so let's connect on LinkedIn. And don't forget to subscribe to my LinkedIn newsletter. Twice a month, I write a case study highlighting some company problems and solutions, focusing on one company each newsletter. These newsletters contain lessons that really can provide valuable information for every business owner. And if you're searching for me on LinkedIn, remember I'm listed as Lawrence Chester. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar. I look forward to talking to you down the road.